Drew, welcome back to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee.
Thank you so much for having me back. I've been excited for this, Carrie. Thanks.
I have been too, especially since you say my name absolutely perfectly correctly. My mom would be so happy to hear you say that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even introduce myself the way my mom used to always say, honey, your name is Carrie, not Carrie. It's Carrie.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
got you.
So you say it exactly right. It just has, I don't know.
Your mom would be proud. Okay.
She would be. So, so Drew, we
Mhm.
want to know what is lighting up your world right now?
All right. Well, since last time we talked, I'm getting in a lot of conversations with both men and women, and it seems to circle back to masculine and feminine energy and
Hmm.
chemicals and hormones that we each have in our body, and that we think that too many of us are imbalanced. Like either the
Mm.
women are too much on the feminine side and ignoring their masculine side, men too far on the masculine, ignoring the feminine. And it's scientific that we have these chemicals in our body. We're supposed to have masculine and feminine traits, and a balance of the two is supposed to be a strength for both of us. And so, what's really getting me, I guess, lighting me up, as you say, is working on tearing down the divide of
Mm.
the genders that's been happening in this country and uniting us, because I'm a firm believer that men need women and women need men, and that we are stronger united and
Mhm.
weaker divided. So that's where I'm at
Wow.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, where do you think this divide originated, came from? Why has it continued to be a part of our lives? And
Yeah.
what are some steps we could take to start to erase that divide and come together?
Mm. I think the divide's been choreographed. I believe it's been choreographed by mainstream media, social media. I'll throw the government in there. Um, when people want something, they can. I'm not going to say brainwash, but I'm going to say brainwashed.
Okay.
If we hear enough of any one thing multiple times over and over again, for those of us who don't realize it, it's gonna start anchoring into our brain, and we start believing something that may not be our belief.
Mhm.
I'm a strong supporter of us writing our own story, and not letting other people write it for us.
Yeah.
And I believe what I read was like 90% of our population are conformists, which means 90% of us are allowing our story to be written for us. I
Wow.
I want to be one of those who writes my own story, and I don't want to stop there. I
Yeah.
want to help others realize that our thoughts are they pop into our head, and they are not permanent. They're impermanent. And if we can catch that these thoughts don't align with our self worth and our morals and ethics and our fabric of our being,
Mhm.
we can then say, "Nope, I'm not. I'm not talking like that." That's why words matter.
Yeah.
If you eliminate some negative words from your vocabulary and you substitute them immediately, consistently with positive words, your brain records that, remembers that, and will spread that. When you unite, that word itself brings us together. When you say the word divide, it's meant to be negative in our brain, and human beings are inherently negative. It's not our fault. Our brains are wired that way.
Mhm.
So if you don't like living negatively, then you can change that. And I think we need to combat all the narratives and the messages that are out there. I don't watch the news anymore. I only do social media for business purposes and to wish people happy birthdays.
Yeah.
Um, there's too much negativity out there, and I think we
Mhm.
need to start being positive, and it starts with a conversation like this.
Yes. Oh, I absolutely agree. There are so many questions that could come out of that. Like, what is our first step? Well, how do we start to turn off this negativity? What is one thing we could do in the next 1 minute? All
Mm,
of those questions. And I want to hear those. And I also would love to hear bringing us together as going back to the original thought process that we started this podcast with, bringing men and women together
mm.
in a conversation where they're actually communicating. And maybe those two things are tied together. Maybe that positive mindset ties right into that communication between men and women.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just only looking at my other screen only because I do have some questions
Okay.
that I believe men and women can start asking each other in conversation. So I'll have that over there so we can get to that.
Okay.
I would say first and foremost the word gratitude
Mhm.
and practicing gratitude. Put it into your calendar. I am now taking a certification course in mindset mastery. I'm going to be, a mindset mastery mentor or
Yeah.
coach. I like the term mentor because I believe mentors just walk alongside with
Hmm.
their colleagues or clients, whatever, and hold their hand and like kind of help them towards their journey. And with mindset, we can, gratitude. I do 100 things I'm grateful for. I do that every day. And it can be anything. It can be thank you for my socks, thank you for the sun. We take for granted a lot of things in life that if we didn't have them, we'd be like, oh my God, I missed that. Huh, I
Hmm.
took that for granted. So if you every morning think of the things that you take for granted, and that forces you to critically think and put you into your conscious part of your brain.
Hmm.
I think I also read this that 90% of our brain activity is unconscious,
Yeah.
or 95%. It's 95%. So that only leaves us 5% of conscious brain activity. So
Wow.
being grateful and doing these gratitude practices enable the brain to be working in that consciousness, which is your present moment. And if we just think of the things we take for granted and just say thank you for, your brain's a recorder, and that will enter into. And you do it first thing in the morning. It helps the whole day.
Hmm.
And you're more apt to pay it forward with nice stuff and compliment people and smile and look, eye contact, if you start your day with gratitude rather than any of the other stuff that you might do. So that's an idea.
And I love that you brought up too gratitude for those things that we very often take for granted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it it got me thinking, okay, what have I taken for granted today? So many things, even just being able to stand up when I got out of bed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually, right, I thank you for my feet. Thank you for the ability to stand, to
Yeah.
walk. One of the things that would be funny is you walk down to your kitchen, you go to where your refrigerator is, you go to reach for the handle, and your refrigerator is not there. You'd be like, "What the heck? What?"
Yes.
Yeah. Uh,
Right.
yeah. So.
Like when your electricity goes off and you go around and you're flipping on light
Yeah.
switches
Yeah. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
if as if it's going
As it
to just magically happen when there's no power coming to your house. But we do take it for granted.
we do, and then think about if your electricity does go out, so you take that for granted, and then you look for the matches or lighters, and if you don't have them, you're like, oh shoot. So that's it's just you
Yeah.
get down to that level. And my coach is working with me that at some point you're gonna feel that gratitude when you say it enough over time.
Hmm.
That now it starts out with words, changing your vocabulary, and after a while you start to say, you start to believe it, you start to feel it, and when you get that visceral feeling of that feeling of gratitude, that's when you're on your way to like paradigm shifts and mindset shifts and
Mm-hmm.
mastery of mindset. So kind of
It's
exciting now.
powerful.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yeah.
So how can we take this into then relationships between men and women, whether that is
Mm,
as coworkers or brothers and sisters, whatever we have that relationship being, it feels like there's so much breakdown with communication. And in my past, I know having male bosses, I don't know that I ever had a female boss,
mm,
but there was so much miscommunication
yeah.
between them and their staff.
Mm,
And I was high level management, so it was up to me to take these messages down, and then the almost like the pitting of men and women against each other happened almost every time.
yeah. Yeah.
how can we take what we just talked about with gratitude, all of that, bring that into this conversation
Yeah,
between we all have, men and women both have female and male hormones, how we have, estrogen is mainly female and testosterone is mainly male, but we all have some of.
right, right.
So how do we connect with our inner, who we truly are, like all of us,
Yeah,
and have these conversations that don't end in a divide?
yeah. It starts with acknowledging uh, physically and scientifically that men and women think differently. The synapses fire differently, the neurons fire differently. We think differently. And that's truth. That's a fact. That's not debatable.
Okay.
You think about back in caveman times, the male had one role: go out and hunt and bring back food and protect and keep us safe. And the woman had 70 million roles of keeping the kids safe, having the something over their head and cooking the meal so we both had roles, right? You fast forward to 2023, the brains haven't changed in the way and the mindset, the roles, they haven't changed in the male mind and the woman mind. I mean, if you research shows that the first thing men think of when they wake up in the morning is money and business. That's the provider piece, right? The fixer piece.
Mm-hmm.
And research shows that when most women wake up and they think about family, and so it's like it's some of a lot of this stuff is ingrained in us
Yeah.
now. Like we said, like you and I said, we both have masculine and feminine hormones and all that kind of stuff. And I think what's happened with this divide that's being forced on us, it's you have the women using most of their feminine stuff and pushing the masculine aside, the men doing the same, but then the men are being told by society, get rid of all your feminine stuff, man. You can't cry. You got to man up. You got to suck it up. All that stuff.
Mm.
And then the labels that are put on us, right? When a woman is assertive, she's called something like the B word, right? Which is
Yes.
wrong. If the man cries or shows emotion, he's called something else, which is
Mm-hmm.
not nice, right? Take the
Yeah.
damn labels off,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Let let a lot of it has to do with what Brene Brown talks about and shame. Don't shame people. So it's a matter of if you feel comfortable being emotionally vulnerable, make sure you choose the right person to be vulnerable to.
Mm-hmm.
Because if an empath goes and is emotionally vulnerable to a narcissist, and the narcissist's response is not what the empath expects or needs,
Mm-hmm.
the empath is going to curl up and not do, and so
Yes.
it goes with acknowledging the brain functions are different, b agreeing that it's very important for men to learn and understand the thinking language of women, and it's important for women to learn and understand the thinking language of men.
Mm-hmm.
Once we acknowledge, agree to observe and learn, we have to respect that we think differently. And I also believe in not compromising. I believe in collaborating.
Hmm.
When you look at compromise, there's always a loser in a compromise. Actually, both people lose something, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
compromise, you give up something, right?
Right.
Collaborate is you work together for a common goal. And so I like going down the collaboration route. I like setting and managing expectations. This is what I heard, this is how I feel, this is what I expect, and you talk it out. I also think that earlier in a relationship, as early as possible, is the best time to talk about money, sex, politics, religion, because
Yeah.
these have been considered taboo in this country. Whereas in like the European countries, this stuff's not taboo. It's talked about early,
Really?
young, setting expectations, managing it, not being surprised, and talking through things. And I was talking to somebody, I forget what country she's from. I don't know where she was from, but she basically said that in her country they talk about in relationships right away money and sex, because if you have expectations that are inaccurate in the beginning and you don't talk about those two things, and then you're in the middle of a relationship and something happens where, I talked to one guy whose wife was stealing money, and this was 5 6 years into their marriage. So, and I've heard opposite. It's not the gender thing, but my point is that nobody should be blindsided
Hmm.
about anything in a relationship, right? Because when you're
Right.
blindsided, that means somebody's not paying attention and somebody's
Yes.
not being transparent. And so I think all those things. There's no magic pill, Carrie, but I think you need to work at it. Nowadays, people don't want to work at relationships. They say, "Oh, you know what? It's not working. Let's leave."
Uh-huh. I was just going to say, oh, you brought up that four-letter word work.
Yeah, yeah,
Working at relationships, and it does take work. I can remember my mom and dad always telling me it took work for them to be together for so long. They were married over 50 years before my dad passed away, and they both said it took work. There were times where we wanted to call it quits,
yeah,
and we decided to keep working.
yeah,
And I do think a lot of people will bail very quickly these days.
yeah.
And then I wonder sometimes in some relationships where there has been a division happen, I could look back and say, I don't know that I could ever see that ever working,
Mhm.
ever working out. Where do we start with working when the situation, working on a relationship when the situation is already, it feels like rock bottom?
Well, I mean, ideally, you don't let it get to that with
Mhm.
all the things we talked about.
Yeah.
Um, I know in my situation, I was the blindsided one in the divorce. I didn't see it coming. And I don't like to say in retrospect because what you have, what
Yeah.
resources you have then are the resources you have then. Um, I have my book's coming out. It's all I talk about all this stuff because I really dove deep into self reflection and so I can help other people if they're going through it. So, but on my ex wife's side, I think she knew it was rock bottom for her.
Hmm.
I wasn't in my mind. I probably hadn't fallen down the cliff yet. so it's like,
Right.
so it's like, but again, I mean, we didn't communicate well.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that there's always communication. It's either effective or ineffective.
Uh-huh.
Our ineffective method of communication was avoidance, avoiding conflicts,
Okay.
difficult conversations. On her side, because she thought I'd get mad, because I'm a guy who talks with his hands passionately.
Uh-huh.
Scared her because of her upbringing and whatever. And then I was concerned about bringing stuff like that because that's she usually would go in her shell,
Uh-huh.
And so what's easier,
Yeah.
what's easier, and we chose avoidance. And then when you avoid, feelings get harbored and suppressed, and at some point resentment. You
Mhm.
resent the other person, whereas if you looked in the mirror, it's like, well, you didn't say what you were thinking, so
Yeah.
it's and yeah, I also believe in relationships it's not a 50-50. It's supposed to be 100-100.
100, 100.
You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
so so much goes into this, but I mean a lot of it is too why you got together in the first place. And I'm
Mm.
sure if you rewind and think, a lot, some people go in for to a relationship for the wrong reasons or
Yeah.
for not opportune reasons. Or I mean, I personally knew that I wanted kids, and I met my now ex-wife when I was 29. She was like 24. In my mind, I knew I wanted children, and I'm
Mhm.
29 years old. I also know that my belief system, or the belief system that was provided to me from my family, was, you don't have kids unless you're married, um, which is okay, but that's what. But think of my logical thinking.
Mhm.
I want kids. I can't have kids unless I get married.
Mhm.
Therefore, I have to find the woman first,
Mhm.
right? You get where I'm going with this.
Yes. Mhm.
So belief systems have put a lot into why how people meet, who they meet. I mean,
Yeah.
I've talked to so many people who, if you come from like a very strict Jewish religion, right, and the husband and wife are like, and then you go and meet someone who's not of that religion, and you could be head over heels, whatever. But if you're getting an influence from the family who says,
Right.
absolutely not.
Right.
Then you have a choice to make. That's an unfair choice.
Yes.
So there's a lot that goes into this, all this stuff.
Hmm.
I just really think that if you're not in your right who you are, if you don't know who you are, that's when decisions are made that maybe not be the best. It's not your fault. It's where you are at that point.
Yeah.
So we could talk about this for so long, but
Yeah.
you have to peel back the onions. It's not an on the surface type discussion. You know what
Right.
I mean? So
Yeah. Actually, I was talking with a friend about this last night and how through our respective relationships, we have grown. I am not the same person I was when I got married 17 years ago, not
right,
even close.
right,
And my husband would agree. I was very anxious and clingy,
hmm
overbearing, didn't want him to spend not 1 second without me because that must mean you don't love me, that kind of thing, just like insecure. And
yeah. Um, I was there with same as you in my beginning of my marriage. Yes, and
yeah,
so
and it can cause and does cause a lot of miscommunicative damage.
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
And we were talking about it, and I was saying things are so good now because I took time to work on me.
yeah. Very important.
I took time, a lot of time, years to work on me.
Right.
And in that process of becoming stronger, that caused its own issues because I was not the person that he married.
Yeah, yeah,
So, which required him to work on himself, which
mhm,
thankfully he did. But it
yeah,
took both of us stepping into who we were created to be in order
yeah.
to come together and make a very strong union.
That's powerful. And to your credit, you both worked on it yourselves at different times, which is
Yes.
even more of a challenge. Like, if you're working on yourselves
Yeah.
together, but that's fantastic, and that's a story in and of itself. How you guys, how you guys did that. I commend you for that.
Thanks. Thanks. It was a journey. It's been a
Yeah,
journey and it
mm,
continues on
yeah, yeah,
because we just wanted it to be strong. And that took communication and that took really knowing who we were. So it comes, this whole conversation has come so full circle.
yeah.
And gratitude was one of the first things I tapped into,
Mm-hmm.
learning to be grateful
Yeah.
and then feeling it the way you said, you get this visceral feeling. So when I, excuse me, write, down that I'm thankful for toothpaste, now it's not just words. I
Mm.
really am thankful for that toothpaste. I've,
Absolutely.
I've been stranded in, Miami, Florida without my luggage, without any toothpaste.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
like my toothpaste.
Right. That sad feeling when you have that empty tube and you've already squeezed the most out. It's like,
Yeah.
I want my toothpaste. I got you.
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
I
It
understand.
is it is just so true. That gratitude is much more important than people give it credit for.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I told you I had some comments that I have on my other
Yeah.
monitor. I had hosted women a group called Women Who Support the Men in Their Life because I wanted to get an idea of women who have men in their life they care about, where they want to support them, and what types of topics they thought should be discussed within couples. So I wrote 7 of them. So let me know what you think.
Okay.
We discussed topics that men and women should be discussing together, such as how to be intentional with our thoughts, words, and actions. Right? How to be empathic and still have boundaries.
Mm.
How to raise your level of self awareness so you may self care better. How our bodies and minds work so we can consciously change things for our betterment.
Mhm.
How to set and manage expectations. How to practice authenticity without fearing rejection and abandonment.
Mm.
And how to ask your partner thoughtful questions based on curiosity.
I love those.
Yeah. So So I think if we are all aware of that, um, just how to's.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to learn how to's. I think those, maybe I'll put them together in something and share that someday. But,
I was going to say, boy, when you have that available as a downloadable PDF,
mm,
let us know.
you know what? Yeah, I can just create that. I'll create that. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just
Mhm.
we'll come back and put it in the show notes and
Yeah.
get it out to everybody.
You know, why not? I'll put that together. All right.
Thank you. I
Very
will have
good.
to add it to your list of all the other things you have going on in your life right now.
It's all right.
I know. I agree. I agree. My list, it keeps me going.
Yeah.
So, what is your version of your pow pow shoes, Drew?
I'm gonna say somebody just told me the other day that my superpower is to break down walls.
Mm.
And I had an idea what he meant, and I asked him again what I mean. He goes, Drew, remember the first time we met? And I remember it was a Zoom call. Somebody introduced me to him, whatever. And I told him my story, and he starts to talk, and he chokes up. He goes, what's this? And he's got like, he goes, that's a tear. What the hell you mean? I'm like crying in your story, and then he starts telling me his story. He starts tearing up, and to this day, but it was about 8 months later when I was in the men's group I run, and he said to me, we were talking about superpowers, and I told him I'm not sure what mine is. Mine could be integrity, blah, blah. And he said, no, Drew, your superpower is breaking down walls. And he
Wow.
reminded me of that conversation, and it was cool because in that conversation he was working from home, I was working from my office, and he had the backdrop like I have, so you didn't know what was really happening. I saw him
Uh-huh.
turn to his left, and I was obviously distracted talking, and he goes like this, "Not now," and somebody comes back and goes, "Sorry about that." I said, "That's all right. You all right?" He goes, "Yeah, my daughter was just talking to me." He goes, "Damn, I just want to hug her right now." And I said, "Well, are you in the same room?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "I'll do it. Hug her."
Yeah.
He didn't want. He felt like he didn't want to interrupt. He was respectful of me and my time. He didn't know me,
Yeah.
and I said, "Go get it." And so he called her in, and they gave a big hug and a kiss, and she runs away. And I said, "You just made an awesome memory, man."
Yeah.
And so that was how that all started. And then he started telling the story and all that. But that's the authentic piece. That's actually one of the things to talk about
Yeah.
is if we stop worrying what other people think about us, we can be authentic, and that heals us, and that makes us stronger inside. And that's part of the boundary.
Yes.
We can be authentic, have a boundary around your self-worth and self-identity, protect yourself, and who cares what other people think about you.
I feel that way myself. So this comes in perfectly then, a writing prompt, a journaling prompt for our listeners.
Mm. Well, we'll go with the whole gratitude thing.
Okay.
When I would write in my gratitude journal, I would always write, "I am grateful for." Now, my coach wrote a book called "A Thousand Things to Be Grateful For." So I open it up on a PDF. She gave it to me, and I'm thinking it's gonna say, "I am grateful." All it said is "Thank you." Thank you is gratitude. So start your day. Just write about 100 thank yous. 1 through 100, write "Thank you," and
Okay.
then fill in the blank.
I love that.
In your
Oh,
mind, things we might take for granted. Thank
yeah.
you for. Boom.
Yeah.
You'll be shocked. Like if you say "I'm grateful for," it stumps you because we don't often say that in our regular vernacular, right?
Right.
But we do say "thank you." So, boom.
I love that. And I think you will be amazed. I highly encourage everyone to take Drew up on this writing prompt. You will be amazed how quickly you fill 100 spots. I could fill 100 spots without taking my eyes off my desk.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed.
Yep.
So
Yep.
do the writing prompt. And then, Drew, where can we find you?
I will go to my website, www.profitcompassion.com.
Hmm.
There you'll see tabs for the men's group that I run, and
Okay.
men's group. I call it Men Supporting Men Collaboration Tribe. I use the words very intent. I was very intentional with the words. It's really a place that guys can come with other guys where there's no judgment, no
Hmm.
shame, and basically you can have a work issue. Say, hey guys, I'm struggling with this. What do you think? Or it could be a personal. Boom, boom. it's networking, but guys who are like-minded. Boom. I mean, you know, and that's one thing. And then on my website, you'll be able to click where it says podcast, and you can listen to From Caving In to Crushing It, which is my podcast.
Okay.
And I got a book coming out. You'll be able to access that from my site too. And it's coming up soon. I mean, that certification. I'm gonna start doing, mindset mastery, mentoring, and
Yes.
coaching, and public speaking. So the website should have all that stuff there for you.
Awesome. Awesome. And I will link that in the show notes. Thank you for hanging out with us. I hope that you will come back and talk to us again. I know as you go through your training, as you finish your book, there's going to be so much more to talk about. So would love to have you back.
Looking forward to it, Carrie.
Thanks, Drew. And keep saying my name right because my mom's so happy right now.
I love CarrieVee. There we go.
Thanks.
You're welcome.